Hello YouTube, my name is Oliver Sherman and this is my new history channel discussing historical events that have taken place over the 20th century. Normally, my original plan on this channel was to create a three-part video series discussing a particular topic and then ending the month on a alternate history special episode, but I thought, seeming as this is my first ever video on YouTube, I would start us off with a treat. So today I will be discussing the alternate scenario, what if World War I never happened? So let's set the scene. It is September 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary is taking his tour through Sarajevo. Later on in the day, after several failed assassination attempts by members of the Serbian National Black Hand group, a young teenage boy called Gavrilo Princip, only 19 years old, steps up to take his shots that would, in our timeline, have led up to the events that caused the First World War. However, in this alternate timeline, something goes wrong. His pistol jams. He does not take the shot that changes history and is instead arrested by local authorities, with the Archduke escaping with his life. Of course, the Archduke is angered over what had happened, but under pressure from other nations and his allies, he does not press for war. So for the next couple of decades, Europe is at peace. The Germany remains a monarchy. The Russian Tsar is not overtaken by Russian communists. Britain keeps its empire for the remainder of the 20th century, or at least half of it. And the Central Powers is not yet fully united. Germany, wanting to expand its empire, begins spending more of its money and economy on building up its industry and armed forces. The Kaiser was expecting a war, whether the other major European nations declared it or not. So, in this alternate timeline, he would have had time to prepare. He would have had time to build up Germany's military and their economy, making it somewhat more powerful than that of France or Great Britain by the middle of the 1920s. of course, without a Treaty of Versailles in 1919, Germany does not lose its economy. And of course, without a Nazi party or a fascist dictatorship, many qualified Jewish scientists help the German government in developing new machines of war such as tanks, planes, and even nuclear devices. By the late 1930s, Germany has constructed its own atomic bomb. By 1940, Germany, confident in the fact that they can win a long, brutal war with the Allies, drops its nuclear bomb on London. Britain and France declare war in retaliation. Britain, however, fearing that Germany will launch an invasion and fearing that they may have more atomic devices, decide to surrender only a couple of months after the declaration of war. Germany promises the British Empire that they can keep their territories for the next couple of years, but the Kaiser never has any intentions on letting this stick. He is, of course, only delaying the inevitable so that he can build up his armed forces and, well, conquer the world. Or at least Britain's colonies in Africa and the Middle East. France is, of course, more stubborn and continues to fight on. However, the situation does not end in stalemate or trench warfare, as Germany has tanks and aircraft, and France is completely unaware of this technology by this time. Russia, of course, still having a Tsar and still having serfdom and a poor economy, does not have a strong military. So just like in our timeline, there would have been a revolution in Russia causing the Tsar to be captured by mobs and nationals and eventually being executed later in the year. By this time, Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, just like in our timeline, would have joined the Central Powers. Most of the Central Powers' armed forces now invades France and the rest of Western Europe. Western Europe soon surrenders early in the next year. By mid-1941, with the West now under German control, and of course the Germans sharing some territory with the rest of the Central Powers, the Central Powers now decide to invade Russia. And of course, without a monarchy and without a leadership, the Russian army is rather disorganized. They do not form the army needed to take on the Central Powers, and they capitulate soon, only a few months after the invasion. The Great War in this alternate timeline would have ended early in 1942, with Europe being dominated by the Central Powers. The United States does not get involved, as they remain isolationist throughout the period of the war. This is, of course, only my speculation on what would have happened had World War I not broken out in 1914. While many of you may think of this as far-fetched, this is just one of many possibilities, so do not judge my perspective. Of course, feel free to leave any comments underneath this video.